So take a breath, lean in, and get ready. This is the My New Norm podcast.
I wasn't feeling any pain, but the sensation, I describe it as though someone had wrapped a net around my chest and began tightening it. I knew something was wrong, and a couple of times through my mind, the words heart attack ran through there. And I went in and woke up my wife, Leslie, and said, "There's something wrong with my body. Take me to emergency." And that's when it got crazy.
Follow, listen, and share with those you know.
The following episode does not provide medical advice. The experiences shared are personal and should not replace professional medical consultation. If you are experiencing symptom of a heart attack or any medical emergency, call 911 immediately.
Jim, welcome to the studio.
Man, it's so good to be with you and to talk with you. I love what you're doing, so thank you for having me.
I love following you on Facebook. It's never a dull moment with all your travels and activities and
Yeah.
missions and all. Why don't you talk about that? What comes to your mind when you think about those days and us getting to know each other?
Well, we were co-workers at Faith Chapel in La Mesa, a suburb of San Diego, and I think we worked together for nearly a decade.
Yeah.
You were the youth pastor, and I was what we called young adult pastor. We had an opportunity to bond because you and I were sequestered over to a property that was being developed, and we were kept away from the rest of the staff. I don't know if that was by design or what, but we spent a lot of time together.
At the one way in, right?
Yeah, at the one we in, and had lunch nearly every day, and then
Well,
took a
we were
break
the
to play.
pioneers because where
Yeah,
our office was became the acreage for the
yeah,
multiplex that was erected in the early 80s that
yeah.
became the new home of Faith Chapel. So we were the pioneers.
Well, we were kind of Joshua and Caleb, if you will. I'd like to think of it that way.
Yeah, we definitely brought back the good report.
Yeah,
Oh,
but those were great days, and we became good friends, co-workers, but friends as well.
yeah.
And to fast forward a little bit, because of that, you eventually took a position at a church in San Antonio, Texas, and through that channel, I was invited to come work at the same church, Trinity Church in San Antonio. So
Right.
you've had a huge impact on my life uh, just through that alone.
Well, you're still there in Texas, so something
I am
happened.
back in San Antonio, have been for quite a while now.
Wow. You love it?
You know what? I do. I won't take too much time, but San Antonio is a great city. If you have to live in one of the top 10 populated cities in America, this is my choice.
Wow.
Or if you have to live in Texas, this is my choice. Um, but it is quite different from San Diego. No
Right.
beaches, no mountains, no good weather, and the Mexican food is all wrong here.
It
So,
is Tex-Mex. It's all creamy.
but
Uh,
I love living here. I love the community I've developed here. I've had some great ministry years here. So, nothing but good memories for me about San Antonio.
awesome. Yeah, we live in Tennessee now, and we
Yeah,
still have that dilemma. They don't know what Mexican food is. They think it's Del Taco.
I know.
So it's rough.
Yeah.
So we have my son still lives in San Diego, so I have him send me pictures of a California burrito, and it's a
Yeah.
sniff and smell. So I have access to that, but no official one. Well, we got to talk about this. This episode is not only about sharing your story, but this is an important episode. It's going to reveal, after years of wondering,
Hmm.
who the individual is that has
Mhm.
taken NFL highlight reels by storm over the years from really 1980. So I'm going to reveal the identity of the Blue Man. And once you see this, you probably will go, yes, I've seen that man.
Ball is not a game of emotion. Don't tell the people in San Diego, because Charger fans have cheered themselves blue in the face, not to mention other parts of the anatomy. Like their fans, the Chargers have been a team motivated by emotion, hoping to reach a hysterical peak in Super Bowl 15.
Well, what happened in 1980? The Chargers owner, Gene Klein, have fired the cheerleaders because some of them posed in Playboy. So he fired the whole cheering squad. And then we used to have the famous chicken, the San Diego chicken,
That's right.
and they fired him because he was charging so much for an appearance. And so
Oh,
now there's no
yeah.
mascot, no cheerleaders. And I said, somebody's got to stand up and do something. That's what led to this.
Oh my. Well, it's been a mystery for years, and we
Mhm.
have just identified and answered that mystery. It was Jim Berrier, 1980, Chargers versus the Bills. So you actually found some people in the audience that you knew, and tell me what their response was when they realized who this guy
Well,
is.
one of them was a fellow staff member of ours at Faith Chapel. He was a rather conservative man, old school, and he was at that game. And I looked up at him, tried to get his attention. I'm calling his name. He wouldn't look at me. He refused to acknowledge me. But and then I saw my boss at the time where I was working. He was a general manager, and he was there with a business associate.
Oh
So I waved at him and said, "Hey, Dad." And the man he was with said, "Do you know that guy?" And he said, "Yeah, he used to work for me."
my.
So, but I had
Oh
fun. I had
my.
my 15 seconds of fame.
Yes, and now that we've mentioned it here on this episode, you're going to have another 15 minutes. January 21st of this year, which is a
Yeah.
few weeks ago,
Yeah.
you encountered a moment that changed your life. Jim, take us back to that day when your life was went from normal to emergency room.
Well, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up, and usually I can go into the living room, sit in my recliner, and I'll doze off. And I tried that, and I wasn't dozing off. In fact, I was getting more tense, and I wasn't feeling any pain, but the sensation, I describe it as though someone had wrapped a net around my chest and began tightening it.
Mm.
And um, rather than do the typical male thing, which is to say, I'll just ignore it and it'll go away, I knew something was wrong. And a couple of times through my mind, the words heart attack uh, ran through there. And I went in and woke up my wife, Leslie, and said, "There's something wrong with my body. Take me
Oh.
to emergency." And that's when it got crazy. So we drove up to the smaller, I call them dock in the box. It's a little emergency medical place that was near our house, and told them, and they immediately said, "We have an ambulance coming that's going to take you to the big hospital." Um, they got me on a stretcher, um, gave me morphine, which was my first drug experience. Even though I grew up in California in the 60s, that was the first time I did drugs.
Oh my.
Um, and they rushed me to the hospital, record time, took me in. By now, it's, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. And they put a stent in one of the arteries that they said was 100% blocked, which
Ah.
is not good. Uh,
You had no idea. You've been in good health this whole time,
Oh
right?
yeah, every year I get my checkup and the doctor says your cholesterol is perfect, your blood sugar is perfect, your heart rate is perfect, everything was perfect, and there was no sign, no clue, no warning. Uh, so when
Before
I'm in
you
the
tell us,
ambulance,
before you tell us about what they did to you,
yeah.
let's go back to the actual ride in the ambulance. What was
Oh
going through
man.
your mind? What was going on during that time?
Okay, I'm in the ambulance. Leslie is driving our car, following the ambulance, or trying to,
Okay.
because it's the whole thing. They're doing the lights and the siren, and the technician says to me, "Do you know why you're here?" And I said, "I think I had a heart attack." And he said, "No, you're having a heart attack right now."
Oh my.
And that's a sobering moment. And so
Oh
this is what I did,
my.
and you know me pretty well. I did inventory really quick, and I
Yeah.
thought, okay, have I lived my life well? Have I been obedient? Am I ready to meet Jesus?
Oh,
And the answer, I checked off the box, said, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's go. If I'm going home, Lord, I'm ready. Well, as it worked out, we made it to the hospital and they continued to work on me and um, spent a couple of days there and began to accumulate this huge team of medical professionals that are just top notch. But they started putting me on meds, and as I said, they put a stent in the one artery that was blocked, and have scheduled bypass surgery, which will be on the 19th of March.
wow.
So, but it was, I wouldn't call it a wake-up call because it wasn't like my life. I don't have any regrets about my life. I feel like I've lived well,
Yeah.
but it was kind of a sobering thing to think. I came very close. I very easily could have died, should have died perhaps, had I delayed um, and getting Leslie to take me to the hospital and everything. So it was a very close call,
Oh
and
my.
that's when everything changed.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I would think that being carried away in an ambulance is an experience that you'll never ever forget. I know I didn't. That was the time when you were rethinking your life. We'll get back to this story, but
Okay.
now
Yeah.
let's tell the listeners about your life. You
Okay.
have been very, very fortunate
Oh
in
yeah.
your later years, especially to do some traveling. I know Leslie loves to travel.
Yes, she
And
does.
tell us some of the things that Jim Berrier got to witness firsthand in the last few years, especially.
Well, and I'll set it up with I was the last place that I was on staff at. I pastored a church downtown San Antonio. It was an inner city church. We worked with homeless and needy people. We had a soup kitchen.
Mm.
It was a great adventure. And Leslie has been by my side now for 45 years. She and all of the ministry at Faith Chapel, San Antonio, and everywhere else in between. She's just stood by me and been faithful to be uh, supportive. And she retired about 8 years before me, and she said, "When you retire, I want to travel." I said,
Mhm.
"You got it." And so I I worked for another 8 years or so, and then announced to my congregation that I would be retiring. And when I said that, I was careful to tell them in for what I do with my life, you don't retire from a calling and you don't retire from who you are. I just will no longer be getting a paycheck or have my name on a door. And
That's
so
true.
I retired, and then here was turning point number one. 2 weeks after I retired, COVID hit and shut down the world.
Mm.
And our whole program would have been stopped immediately because the health department wouldn't have let us do the soup kitchen.
Right.
We didn't have technology to do streaming services and stuff. So I would have been done in 2 weeks anyway. But the travel got prolonged. We weren't going to do any traveling in 2020 or 2021 for that matter.
Right.
So we had to wait a while and then we started picking it up. So Leslie and I have traveled all over the world. Now, some of that has just been pleasure. We've done cruises. We've traveled all over Europe. We've been to London, Paris, Rome, Edinburgh, some great, great places, Milan and Venice and Prague. Great, great cities. We've been to Bangkok in Thailand. And then we've done missions trips as well. I do a mission trip at least once a year with the group out of California. We distribute wheelchairs in developing nations. 80% of them are pediatric chairs, little kids. The group that works out of Modesto, California, Hope Haven West, and we take wheelchairs into these developing nations. I stay mainly in Latin America. One,
Okay.
because I speak enough Spanish that it helps, and two, the expensive travel. It's easier for us. So we go to Mexico, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, places like that. And a couple of incidents. The first time I went, it just destroyed me because they bring these little kids in, um, usually thrown over their shoulder, whether it's parents or caregivers,
Ah,
and in these places, the families cannot afford health care, and they're sure not going to get a wheelchair.
right.
And so it's so. I mean, every time I do this, I have to take routine breaks where I go out back and just cry
Ah,
because it's so you see these little kids and but what we do is fit them in a chair. Takes me about 2 hours to put a kid in a chair and get it fit just right. You have to adjust everything so you don't do more damage to their little body.
right.
Um, and then you get them set up, and some of the things in that process, we test them to see how strong their hands are, and we ask them to flap their arms like a bird. And if they have strength in their arms, that means they can propel themselves in the
Right.
wheelchair. And most of the time, the parents, particularly the mothers, will say, "No, no, no, they can't do that. He can't do that." And I'm usually confident that he can. So we get the kid set up in a chair, and when he's all set, I'll get about 15 feet back and then beckon him, and he'll start propelling himself.
Mm,
And there is nothing like that moment when you see a kid for the first time have mobility and freedom and dignity. It's life-changing for the child,
right.
also for the family, because now they don't have to carry him around everywhere. That is just a wonderful moment, but it's
Ah,
also heart-wrenching.
yeah.
One day I was working, you usually work in pairs. I was working with another man, and he himself was a paraplegic. So he's in a wheelchair, but he's helping me build wheelchairs. It was amazing. And
Mm,
a husband and wife came in with two daughters. They were teenagers. Both of them were handicapped severely, and each of them was carrying one of the daughters in. And I have two daughters, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought my kids were born healthy, and I have no choice in that. And these people had no choice that their children would be born
ah,
uh, crippled.
mm,
And it just destroyed me because I kept looking at these two girls thinking, oh, this could have been my daughters. And we fitted them both in chairs. And again, it was a great, great moment, but it's so emotionally, it's the high and the low. It's the joy of seeing somebody set free, but it's the pain when you realize just because of the nature of this world and the human system that there are devastating things in people's lives. And so it runs the gamut of emotions for me. And
ah, I can't
I will do
imagine.
this as long as I'm physically and mentally able to do it.
Right.
We went to 3 cities last year, and it was a great, great experience again. And I'm about to turn 75, but uh, I'm hopeful that I can just continue to do this. We'll see how things go on the 19th.
Yeah, that's right. I will. Why don't you give them the website for that outreach? And if people want to look into it, see what's going
Yeah.
on with that, why don't you give that to us?
Okay. You would go to Hope Haven West International. The director's name is Lonnie Davis. He's a man that I've known for 50 years, which just tells you how old we are.
Mm,
And Lonnie got into this and started this whole thing, and he just turned it into a well-oiled machine. Lonnie and his wife have been on so many distributions that they have now, they're approaching 30,000 wheelchairs that they
Ah,
have put people in. And
ah,
that's just, I've probably done about 300 myself, but they go constantly. They'll do 8 to 10 trips a year.
oh
And,
my.
and, uh, so Hope Haven West, a tremendous organization. Everybody pays their own way. It's all volunteers, for his
So
efforts.
every single dollar that's raised goes to help a kid.
Goes to chairs. He has a concert venue up in Modesto, and they put on concerts to raise money, and they make it very clear that all of the money from the concerts goes to Hope Haven to pay for wheelchairs. Nobody pockets anything. It's one of the most legitimate organizations I've ever seen, and it's all volunteers, mostly retired people like myself. Um, and I've got to know this team. It's an extraordinary bunch of people. Of all the things I've done, soup kitchens, street ministry, everything, the wheelchair distributions are the most rewarding experience I've ever had in my entire life.
Ah, that is
So
so
you
awesome.
can see I'm sold on it.
Yeah, yeah. Jim, let's go back to some of the traveling you guys have done. You kind of
Okay.
you created a post that I saw on Facebook that really sparked my interest because you started to list the things that were the highlights of those trips, things you've seen, even concerts that you went to. I
You know
just was
what?
blown away.
I have been, I feel like the luckiest man on the planet, heart attack and all. I have been all over the world. Some of the cities I've visited that I've loved, I mentioned a few of them. It's been a great experience because when I was younger, I never dreamed that I would ever leave, other than Canada or Mexico. I never thought I'd ever leave this continent.
Right.
Some of the fun ones, I'll give you a one story. Leslie and I went to Venice one year, and it is a beautiful city. It's a very romantic city. And in the middle of Venice is a place called St. Mark's Square. It's in the movies all the time.
Mm.
Uh, and she said, I want to go back to St. Mark's Square in the evening when it's dark and experience it under the lights. So one evening we caught it. Everything is by boat. There are no cars in Venice. You walk or you
Wow.
ride boats. So we took a little water taxi back to St. Mark's Square, and by then it was about 10 o'clock and it kind of calmed down. There was nobody out in the square. There was still one orchestra stand with an orchestra up there playing some classical music. And most people were sitting around in the cafes and stuff on the edge. And I just spontaneously, I took her hand and we walked out into the middle of St. Mark's Square and began to dance to the
Oh.
orchestra. And it had to be
Oh.
one of the most romantic things. It should have been in a movie. If I'd had a drone and could have filmed it, it would have been great. That was a great experience. One year we went to Edinburgh, Scotland, one of my favorite cities in the world. And it was festival week. And one of the things they have is they have a jazz festival in Scotland. Now,
Oh
this is just
my.
goofy because you've got all these Celtic groups. They're from
Right.
Scotland, Ireland, all around there. And when they talk the birds, they sing the birds, but when they
Oh
sing, they sound like they're
my.
from the Mississippi Delta. They got the blues and the
Oh
jazz down
my.
pat. It
Oh.
was a hoot. So,
Oh.
love Scotland. And so we've been all over. We've seen so many great cities. I've been some of the highlights as far as things. I love the architecture, the cathedrals, the churches, the museums, the big buildings and stuff. We've been to Notre Dame before the big fire. When
Ah.
Notre Dame caught fire, I literally wept. I sat
Yeah,
there and watched it, and I wept
that
because
was
it was just one of my
dramatic.
favorite places. Um, I've been to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I've been to the top of the Empire State Building. I've been to the top of the CN Tower in Toronto, which is bigger than all of them.
Mm.
Uh, I've been on top of a building in Bangkok that's 84 floors high, and there's a glass terrace you walk out on, and you're looking through the glass down at the streets 84 stories below.
Wow. Wow.
Those are all fun things for me. And of course, we've been to Yosemite and Yellowstone and all the national parks.
Right.
So I'm so wealthy in terms of life experience, getting to do those things. I feel like I've seen everything I would like to see, yet there's more.
Sure.
We go to museums a lot, and I have seen the top 20 most famous works of art in the world.
Wow.
The Mona Lisa,
Wow.
the Last Supper, the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo's David, the statue, famous statue, The Thinker by Rodin. I, I've seen all of that stuff, and I just think I never dreamed that I have those experiences. And
Yeah.
there's the other side of it, the less cultured side. I've been to every Major League Baseball park. I'm very proud of that. I've been to the World Series and I've been to the NBA Finals and I've been to the Final Four. I shook Bill Russell's hand one year. Um, I have concert-wise, gosh, the first
Yeah.
concert I ever went to was a band. They had a drummer named Ringo and a bass player named Paul. And I
Oh,
saw the Beatles when I
wow.
was 13. And that changed my life because I went home and said, Mom, I have to have a guitar. And my mom was a single mom in the 60s, bought me a used guitar, and that changed my life. I started playing guitar, and that's been a big part of what I do. Um, when I've seen at least 300 concerts in my life. I saw Jimi Hendrix, I saw The Who, I saw Pink Floyd. I've seen them all. So
Bob
I'm just,
Dylan. Bob Dylan.
yes. Oh, Dylan, I won't go see him anymore. I've seen him too many times. Uh, but I do a great Dylan impersonation. You've heard me do that.
Oh,
But
yes.
I've seen so many of them, and I feel like all of these things, the art, the travel, the sports, the music, I've and this is a setup here, what I'm about to do. I feel so rich in life experience, and yet the greatest treasure in my entire life is the relationships that I've been blessed to
Mm.
share and the friends that I have. And you're included as part of that. And I have 5 men in my life that are scattered around the country. I could call any one of them right now and say, I need you to get on a plane and come here right now. And they would do it.
Wow.
And that is wealth beyond imagination,
Ah,
to have those kind of friends.
wow.
So there's
Well,
a little glimpse.
yeah. Well, the Jim Berrier that I know came through with the things you were talking about because you've always had a love for music and helping
Yeah.
others, including not only music but sports. And the
Oh, yeah.
sports and the music has given you some ventures as well with radio. You've been on the radio in San Diego
That's
as
right.
well as
Yeah.
San Antonio. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, it started with, and Gary Young.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. The
I got to know
vacuum
him. He's become
salesman.
a very, very close friend. And we had a friend who was a manager at a local radio station in San Antonio. And he said, why don't you guys put together a radio show? So we started this show called Resistance Radio, and it was kind of like the old Wittenberg door thing. It was a lampoon. It was kind of really, it was kind of taking pot shots at religion, and well-meaning, but it was kind of
Sure.
shake things up, and the theme was, why do you do what you do? Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you embrace this faith of yours? What's behind it? And we had Donald Miller, Tony Campolo. We had tons of authors and speakers. It was quite a show. And but it was always kind of with a little bit of tongue in cheek and a little bit of prodding to say, just going to church and wearing the bumper stickers and whatever. There's got to be more to it than that.
Right.
So we were doing that, and that show was just catching fire. And the manager came and said, we're getting great feedback. Would you guys be interested in doing another show? And we said, like what? And he said, well, we have an opening to do a sports call-in show. Well, ding, 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 ding.
Hello.
So we started doing this sports program. And again, it wasn't about scores and who's in first place. It was making fun of pop culture and sports. And so, we'd take a sound bite from an athlete and we would just repeat it over and over again and run it into the ground. We would talk about the goofy things. The best show, whenever we did that, every once in a while we would have, okay, it's Sports Hate Saturday. Call us and tell us who you hate and why. And
Oh,
and it would light up. And so it
oh,
was, I hate the Lakers. I hate this or that, and I hate the
yeah.
Yankees. And even some of them would hate the Spurs, which is sacrilegious where I live. But
Right.
and that
Oh,
was fun because we didn't realize that when you do a sports media program, you get media credentials. So we could go to any sporting event for free. We went to the Final Four one year and sat down there in the press section on the front on the court side. That's when I met Bill Russell, shook Bill Russell's big old hand. This is fun. Here's a fun one. Forgot about this. This is another Blue Man story. So I said, well, I'm going to go down into the locker room and interview some players. And North Carolina was one of the teams that year. They had a great player named Tyler Hansbrough. So I go down there. Well, I'm a little late, and I'm about to go into the locker room, and the doors fly open, and the players come running out the tunnel, and they're about to run out onto the court. And
oh,
I think I'm going to get trampled if I don't start running. So I'm running along with the players right out the tunnel, right out onto the
no.
floor. And I'm out there in the middle of the court
Oh
in the Final
my.
Four. And I thought, people are probably looking, Gary's laughing his head off. I thought people are probably looking, going, oh, look, isn't that nice? They're letting that poor little old
Oh
challenged man
my.
be part of
Oh
the
my.
program.
That was great. Great
So lots
story.
of great experiences. And then
Oh,
we were doing the radio show, the Resistance Radio, and do you remember Ron Archer?
yeah.
Uh, he called me and said, "I've got a friend that's going to be doing a debate in San Antonio. He's an apologist, and he's going to be debating an atheist on Easter Sunday." And he doesn't know anybody in town. Could you kind of take him under your wing? Could you get a couple of people from your church to maybe go down and sit in the audience while he's there and be praying for him and stuff? And I said, sure. So I went down, picked up Bob Siegel at the airport, took him to where the debate was taking place, and then picked him up and said, why don't you come on the show tonight? So he came on our radio show. And from that time on, that's been almost 20 years. Bob and I have been very, very close. So I am now rotating co-host on his show at KCBQ 1170 on your dial in San Diego. And when I'm in town, I go into the studio with him, which is great fun. So
Right.
once a month, I'm on the Bob Siegel show. Uh, and that's been a just great, great fun. And he's a real serious guy. He's an apologist. So his whole field is
Yeah.
to have answers and plead a case for the faith, and he gets pretty political too. I'm not as
Hmm.
political as he is, but and so again, my job then is to be the class clown. So I'm usually, often I'll say something and he'll start debating with me. I go, Bob, that was a joke. I was only joking.
Oh,
But that's been great
wow.
fun.
Right.
So I've had a lot of great experience, a lot of fun being on the radio. I also had my own podcast like you're doing. I had one for a couple of years running, and did that. That really kind of came as a result of the show in San Diego. Someone in Houston heard me on the Bob Siegel show, and he called me and he said, "Would you be willing to do a podcast on my network?" And I said, "Well, sure, let's talk about it." And so we set it all up, and I did a weekly podcast that ran for a couple of years, and enjoyed it. And then just kind of, I think it ran its course. It wasn't nearly as interesting as what you're doing because it was really just like a Bible study type of a thing,
Right.
trying to deal with issues that people might have questions about. So
Right. Right.
did that. I've published 4 books during my retirement. Yeah, I'm an influencer, Barry.
That's right.
I'm doing. I'm doing what I
Uh,
can. So, as I
well,
told my congregation, you don't retire from your calling. So,
yes.
there
Well,
we
you
are.
got two daughters and you also have grandkids. So
Oh
you
my.
have lived a full life. Let me
Yes.
bring back this statement and then I'm going to have you respond to it. What does this mean to you? Um, you and I can't control what happens in our life, but you absolutely can control how you respond to it. Um, what does that do to your brain now? How do you respond to
Well,
that statement?
I think I've always believed that, but this recent episode with my heart
Yeah.
has really put it into focus. Now, one of my favorite quotes is from a song John Lennon wrote for his son Sean, called
Hmm.
Beautiful Boy. And in that song, he says, "Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans." And that's kind of a
That's
theme for me.
true.
And this really is the extreme example of that. I've always believed in, I'll use a little Francis Schaeffer, an open system, a unified field of knowledge within an open system, which means I believe in absolutes, I believe in God, but I think things are wide open. I don't believe in fatalism. I don't believe that everything is fixed and set and that you can do nothing about it.
Hmm.
But things do happen in everybody's life, and you can read it in history, read it in the scriptures. There are things that interrupt our plans, and what you do with that maybe is the greater measure of the character of your heart.
Right.
Uh, when things are going well, who's going to complain? I'm happy. I've got everything I want. I'm doing what I want. But then when something like this happens that's traumatic, what you do with that says a lot about who you are.
Right.
For me, it was the initial thing when I was in the ambulance, and I thought, okay, I'm ready to go.
Mm.
But if this isn't my time, I want to live my life to the fullest. I want to do the most that I can to serve others. Now, when we travel and do stuff, it's
Yeah.
very satisfying. But as I mentioned, things like the wheelchair trips, doing missions work, serving other people, that's where the true value in life is for me. So
Yeah.
if I get a few more years out of this, I'm going to do what I've always done. And so I think it got my attention that,
Yeah.
gosh, you're mortal. You're not going
Yeah.
to live forever. But have I done well with what I've had to work with? I think so. I think I'm pleased with what I've done so far in my life, and I'm very pleased with the people I've surrounded myself with. And
Yeah.
you mentioned my kids. I have two daughters, five grandchildren, and hang on to your hat. I have a 12-year-old, well, he will be in a month, a 12-year-old great grandson.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my. Your
So
kids is
life is
having
very
kids
full.
or having kids. You know. Uh
I always used to love, the language of your children's children's children. I'm living that now.
Father Abraham.
Yeah, I'm a
Oh.
patriarch. So, but
Oh.
I don't feel cheated. I've said this for several years. If I die tomorrow, I will not feel like I was deprived of anything. I'll feel like I was the most grateful man, the luckiest guy on the planet. I don't know if lucky's the right word,
Well, you
but
mentioned family. What was your
yeah.
family's response when they heard that this happened to you?
Well, uh, and when we first went to that little emergency place I mentioned, I saw the doctor talking to Leslie, and then she broke into tears, and I thought, that's not good.
Mm.
Um, and my daughters were there to rally around me. The family has really been so supportive. They've been there, um, and but I think for all of them, it was kind of a shock. Like, no, this can't be happening. This is our dad. He's a hero. He's going to live forever. He doesn't, nothing's
Right,
wrong with dad.
right.
So we've all had to walk through this thing of the reality check. We our hopes are high. I have a great team of physicians,
Hmm.
um, and I expect to pull through this thing. But it's really, I think it's made me treasure uh, my time with my kids, and anytime they can come over. In fact, right now Jamie is temporarily staying with us, and we'll just sit there out on the porch and talk. And
Wow.
it's like every moment that I have with her
Mm,
is so precious.
mm.
Um, and I don't want to take any of that for granted.
Right,
And so it has, I think it's caused us to get even closer if that's possible.
right,
So,
right. Oh,
uh,
wow. Well, I so enjoyed your honesty and your ability to have the perspective of, hey, like Paul, if I live, great. If I die,
yeah,
great. I'm going to be with him.
exactly.
It's that kind
Yeah.
of feeling that I'm hearing today. But you didn't get to choose what happened to you, and we've been talking
No.
about your response to it, which is key. We are not guaranteed. Um, we
No.
are really, if our priority is about me only and me trying to control my life, we're going to be miserable. But if we can let go and
Yeah.
say he's in control of it, and
Yeah.
I have this day before me, I'm present right now. What can I do right now? Who can I call? Who
Yeah.
do I need to spend time with? Because we're not promised tomorrow. So that's
That's
what I'm
exactly
getting out of
right.
your story.
Let me tell one more story, a music
Sure.
story. One of my favorite musicians, not well known, but is a man named Warren Zevon.
Hmm.
And he passed away a few years ago. He had terminal cancer. And he used to go on the David Letterman show a lot. And when he was just months from dying, he went on David's show and was telling his story about having cancer and the impending
Mm.
end of everything for him. And Letterman said, "So how has this affected you?" And he said, "I just enjoy every sandwich."
Oh
Isn't
my.
that something? And
Yeah.
I'm doing that right now. Now, you and I have this in common. I've had to change my diet.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I have to enjoy the bland food I'm eating.
Yeah.
Um, but the point is, you don't know you don't take for granted that you're going to have it tomorrow or next year or
Right.
whatever. So it's really literally a day at a time. And I'm walking that right now. And that
Oh
is my
my.
new normal.
Right. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story today. And Jim, you've been a good friend. And God's been faithful to you
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
life that you have lived. He's been part of it. What would you say to a listener today in regards to the unknown and maybe they're facing that unknown? What
Yeah.
kind of encouragement would you say to that listener?
Well, I would say, however this works for you, you need to secure your right standing with the Creator. You need to know that you're on good terms with your Maker. I'm not nearly as religious as I was when I started out in the ministry. Um, but I think that's you have to get eternity settled because that puts this short period of time that we call life in perspective. And in fact, when I first became a believer, it was because a young man said to me, and really what it was a variation on is called Pascal's wager. He said, I said, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of this stuff you're saying. And he said, well, Jim, if I'm right and you're wrong, I have everything to gain and you have everything to lose. If you're right and I'm wrong, you still have nothing to gain and I still have nothing to lose. And I stayed awake all night thinking about that. And I would say that to anybody. If if there is an intelligent creator who has plans for us and loves us, um, then that is all important. Because 70 years, 90 years, 100 years is just a breath compared to eternity. So consider that and then live accordingly. And so I try to live my life in a way that uh, that's the scale that I weigh things on is eternity. And because of that, other people's lives are very, very important because they have an eternal destiny. And if I can have any impact or influence to draw them closer to God and to a sense that they have spent their life meaningful and in a valuable way in the light of eternity, then I've done well.
Wow. As you were talking, I was reminded of an illustration about life. And if you were to take every year of life and it be represented as a minute, and the average age of a lifespan is, say, 80, and you're 70, in minutes, you've got 10 minutes of life left.
Right. Yeah.
If you're 40, you got 40 minutes of life
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
It's a perspective that you need
Yeah.
to buy into because life is short and
Yeah.
all you have is today. Jim, thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Jim didn't choose a heart attack. None of us get to choose the moment that shifts our lives. The diagnosis, the phone call, the interruption, but we do choose our response to it. And today, as you've been listening to Jim share his story, um, don't ignore it. Life is short, it's a vapor. It's here now, gone tomorrow. Have the conversation, make the appointment, say the words, slow down,
Mm.
but make sure you sit with the content that's being shared, that your life matters, and you're not promised how many minutes you get.
Yeah.
So, this is the minute that you live life to the fullest. So, you can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you respond to it today.
Awesome.
Jim Berrier, love you. And I have fond memories of doing life with you in the past and our present situation with the challenges that we face. It's encouraging to know that we're still here and
Yeah.
life is still being poured out from us. And you are a good friend. Thanks for sharing your story today.
Well, thank you, Barry. I really enjoyed it. As we say in the barrio, igualmente,
Which means
which is kind of like the same to you, but more of it.